Okay, page Kuf. Unedaber ata me'inyan ha'ava. So last time we learned together, we kind of discussed the relationship between Ava and Yira. We tried to graduate from the childishness of people deciding if they're Ava people or Yira people. And now we're going to talk about Ava. There are three branches of Ava. Two of them will be obvious to you. The third one is a little bit of a chiddush. Hasimcha, okay, that works. Joy. Hadveikus. What's dveikus? Closeness, attachment. The hakina. What's that about? So kina is where kanos comes from. And kanos is what happens when something that you love is not being treated properly. So sometimes a feeling of a warrior feeling, sometimes even a rage, could be a result of the midah of ava, not a midah of yira. It's so interesting. If someone that you love is in danger, you're acting with a midah of yira or ava when you vanquish those that are putting them in danger. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how sometimes the same action could be, the energy could be generated from a different midah. But anyway, let's see. Now he's going to just talk broadly about what the ava is. That a person should have a desire. The word chayshek, which is similar to the word cheshek, which means desire. You ask someone if they want to eat something and they say, I don't have cheshek, I don't have desire. Or we talk about Nafshi Ben Azai. Ben Azai, when he was asked why he doesn't get married, he said, Nafshi Choshka Batayra, my nefesh is a desires Torah. So that type of cheshek is a desire of attachment. It's like a desire to become close to and to attach. And the way that I know that is that the word cheshek means a hook. In the Binyan HaMishkan, there was silver chashukim. A chashuk is an attachment. Is something to is an attachment piece. So when someone has cheshek for something, it's that he wants to be attached to it. So the person's cheshek umisaved that he wants and he desires mamish el kervasa yizbarach to be close to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. V'roidei fachar kedushasi, and he chases after his holiness. Ka'asher yirdoif ish achar davar hanechmod mimenu chemda aza. The way a person chases after something that's incredibly precious to him. Achiyeloi hazkaras. Okay, well, let's stop there for a second. So now we know that the inyan of Ava is to have a tremendous, tremendous desire of closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is something that we know. What we're a little bit less sophisticated about, perhaps, Bizman Hazeh, and it causes some agmas nefesh that we don't expect, is that we don't know how to become close to Hashem or what it means to become close to Hashem. And sometimes we substitute certain shallow feelings of closeness with what's really called kirvas Elokim. Closeness to Hashem, there's no place that Hashem is that if you go there, you're close to Hashem. This truth is that there are places that you could experience relating to Hashem in an easier way. There's less mechitzas, like Eretz Yisrael or Yerushalayim or the Makam HaMikdash, like a Beis Medrash or a Beis HaKnesses, places of Kedusha. But that's not closeness to Hashem. Is not about a certain geographic location. And it's also not, Rabbi Yisai, please don't throw anything at me, it's not a certain emotional state. It's not like you get if you're just the right amount tired, no, you're just the right amount tired and listen to the right music, maybe smoke the right vape, you can suddenly feel close to Hashem. And it could feel so warm and yummy, closeness to Hashem. That's not called Kirvas Elokim. Now, feelings, emotions of closeness can be helpful, can assist, can trigger, and can be part of closeness to Hashem. But closeness to Hashem and ruchnias, being close to someone, there's one way to be close to them, and that is to be like them. If someone doesn't act like Hashem, he could have all the external trappings of closeness. That's not called kirvas Elokim. Sometimes you could have a person, let's say, that's not Makayim the mitzvahs of the Torah, but he could sit with a guitar and he could strum the strings of the guitar and make up beautiful, haunting songs about all of the trials and tribulations of his life. And he could say, when I do this, I'm closer to Hashem than when you learn a Taisus in Masechta Beya. And I'm sure that it feels that way. But it's not reality. Just like if I would give you the right stuff to smoke, you could develop a relationship with the tissue box. It doesn't mean it's reality, you know. You can imagine, someone sitting there going, "Oh, my tissue box." No, I've seen crazier. That's not closeness. Emotions are here to help us in the journey to closeness. But closeness is when we make HaKadosh Baruch Hu proud of us, when we act in the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to act, and when we imitate His midos. That's real closeness. And sometimes you find Talmidei Chachamim that are all mushy and oozing emotion, and sometimes you find Talmidei Chachamim, like a prime example would be Rabbi Yashiv Zecher Tzadik Livracha, who was fierce and severe, and they're both equally close to Hashem. Just the very, 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 very external expressions might be a different path. It's very important for us to understand that and not to be fooled. We seem to be going through a little bit of a theme of trying to stay mature. The reason I'm saying this so strongly is there's one reason that I'm pushing it, and another reason that I want to caution. The push is that we work hard to serve Hashem properly. We work hard not to violate the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us not to violate. It's not the easiest part of our avodas Hashem. And sometimes we question if that's bringing us any closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's where the nisayon of our Yiddishkeit is. That's our nisayon, for us to recognize that we are very distant from spirituality. We're not distant from the stuff that we could smoke that makes us feel spiritual, but that's nothing. That's not real. We're distant from real ruchnias, and therefore sometimes we get turned around. We get distracted, or we get disappointed, and we're really doing the absolute best to become close to Hashem, and we don't feel that closeness because our emotions aren't picking up on the authenticity of that closeness, and we therefore cheapen it. It's very important to understand that I love to sing, and I love a good kumsitz, and I love to feel connected to the people around me. And I'm not saying this just to be cynical. You know me, you know this about me. I love this stuff. I can sit and sing for hours. But Rabbi say one taisvis is a dose of closeness. It's like actual intimacy with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we say in davening, in Birchas Kriya Shema, there's a bracha about love. It's called Ava Rabba, or Ava Solam. It's a bracha about Hashem's love for us and our love for Hashem. And if you learn Ava Rabba and Ava Solam, the subject of it is Limud HaTorah. So that's really where it's at. If a person wants to really touch the core of closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's through learning Hashem's Torah. And if you're having a hard time feeling it, so then we should not toss that aside. I don't think that you should just say, okay, I don't have to feel it. No, because it's very hard to sustain when you're learning Zman after Zman, or hour after hour, and you're not feeling it. So sometimes we have to do things to add to the core of the relationship in order to add some feeling. The right music, the right chaburas, the right pilpul chaverim, and things like that, the right onegs, the right mishmars, all those things to give us the feelings that are the appropriate feelings for the life that we're living. But the feelings that we're trying to build in ourselves, that's the way that we're trying to attach ourselves to a reality that goes far beyond the feelings that we could generate. And this is very important to know. Have you ever gone to an oneg or a mishmar wanting to be inspired and sitting there for a half hour, 45 minutes, and be like, it's not happening for me tonight. It's just not. And Rabbi say when that happens, we feel rejected by Hashem. That's what we feel. Here I came to the table, and I'm sitting, and singing, whatever, whatever the Dveika song of the day is. It's not doing it for me. I'm not feeling it. We feel rejected by Hashem, and we also make a big mistake. We say to ourselves, what am I doing wrong? It must be because I did an Aveira today. That's what we tell ourselves. And the reality is that when that happens, we should shrug our shoulders, say, okay, maybe next time. Because that's not where it's at. That is a delicious way of connecting, and sometimes it's easier to connect, and sometimes it's not easier to connect. You have a relationship, and when you have a relationship that sustains itself for many years, as many of you have, of course, the classic relationship that's the mashal is the relationship of marriage, but you don't have to limit yourself to that. Relationships with siblings, with friends, with parents. Don't you have a very, very, very close friend that whenever you talk to him, you feel very close, but sometimes not? And sometimes it doesn't click? Of course. Because that's the way it is sometimes. I'm a little tired today. I'm a little exhausted. I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm a little stressed. I have a final this week. It's hard for me to get into it. We have to learn how to shrug off the things in Avos Hashem that are not really the point. They're really just there for the window dressing. It's a little bit like the good mashal would be. We know that the Shulchan Aruch tells us that it's very important to wear special clothes for Shabbos. There's something called Big Day Shabbos. So Big Day Shabbos are a very important part of Shabbos. If you look at the Gemara and you look at the Chazal, it's a big thing. Yilbash Big Day Shabbos. You put on bigadim. It's very representative of what's happening on Shabbos. That we're like putting the weekday world away and we're taking on new royal clothing that expresses a new reality about ourselves, a deeper reality about ourselves. Very, very precious. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us that Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai would wash himself in honor of Shabbos. Then he would put on sadinim hamitzuyetzes. He would put on like very fancy clothing that have tzitzis on them, which is probably where it comes from. That the Rebbes, I don't know if the Rebbe did this, but in many Hasidus, the Rebbes wear a talis Friday night because of this idea of wearing a sadin hamitzuyetzes, and he would go out into the fields and he would greet Shabbos with these big day Shabbos. So imagine that it would happen one time that you're flying somewhere, you're going home on a Thursday night, and as unfortunately has been happening with greater frequency in the world, in America today, your flight is canceled or delayed. You make the mistake of flying out of Newark, and they shut down travel for the day, and it's a short Friday, and you make a judgment call that you cannot fly for Shabbos. The problem is that your Shabbos clothes are at home. So you're going to find a place for Shabbos, so you're not going to have Shabbos clothes. And either you're going to be wearing your weekday clothes, or worse, someone else's Shabbos clothes. You know what the battle is then? The battle is to feel like it's Shabbos. Because our Shabbos clothing really help us feel like it's Shabbos. People that walk around, as you know, sometimes people will walk around in sweats or t-shirt and shorts on Shabbos. One of the reasons why it's not advised to do that is because it makes it harder to plug into Shabbos. To feel like it's Shabbos. And it feels like any afternoon. A vacation, but any afternoon. But imagine you were stuck and you didn't have your Shabbos clothes. So would you feel like it's legitimate to say, I don't have my Shabbos clothes, so I don't have Shabbos. I'm not keeping Shabbos this week. All right, that's a joke. Just because you don't have the Shabbos clothes, that doesn't mean you don't have Shabbos. I mean, that's crazy. You know, that's the equivalent of sitting by a kumsitz and not feeling inspired and saying, "Oh, Hashem doesn't want to be close to me." No, those are the Shabbos clothes. The actual authentic relationship that you still have. So that's the first thing why it's important to know where the closeness comes from. However, I do want to say, just as a warning, it is also not correct to take what I'm saying to the other extreme. And when someone sits down and tries to get close, let's say you know a person that's not religious, and the way that he connects to Shabbos is that he shows up to Shabbos meals. There are people like that. I know people like that. They're not religious, but they like a great Shabbos Suda, an inspiring Shabbos Suda. So I think that not only is it a mitzvah, but it's a very powerful thing. Even though that's not where it's at. Even though it's not where it's at, Afal Pikein, it's an indication of a yearning soul for Hashem. And sometimes it's us, by the way, doing that, but it's an indication of a yearning soul to us for Hashem. And there is Ava there. The reason I'm speaking this out is just that we shouldn't get distracted and pursue what's not the point, even though sometimes that's a great step towards it. How many people are keeping Torah and mitzvahs today because they sat by kumzitzes and were inspired? Many. There are many. But that was their first step. They came to a Hanukkah lighting. They came to a Shabbos Suda. They came to a Simchas Torah, and they watched people dancing, and they wanted more of that feeling. And today they're sitting and learning Taisus and saying, "I don't have time to dance. I got to learn." Because sometimes those guys become the most intense and fiercest guys of all. So it's just a little bit sophistication in terms of what we're talking about being close to Hashem. But listen to this: if a person yearns for closeness to Hashem so much, ad sheyiyeh lo hazkaras shmo yizbarach, until it becomes for him that mentioning Hashem's name. Can you imagine this? V'daber b'tehilosav, and to speak about the praises of Hashem, just to talk about how wonderful Hakadosh Baruch Hu is. The ha'asik b'divrei tzorasei, and just being able to learn His Torah. And I want to point out when it comes to that a lot of times people feel like I don't enjoy learning. I get that a lot. I don't enjoy sugyas. I don't enjoy learning so much. And that is something that needs to be dealt with because, the natural thing of learning is that it is enjoyable. And therefore, sometimes we have to figure out what steps need to be put into place to make learning enjoyable. Sometimes it could be traumas from the past. Very, very often, Bisman Hazeh, people were experienced, I don't want to put blame, but people experienced difficulty or stress or feeling misunderstood or feeling pressured in ways they weren't ready for either by the system or by their parents or something, and they have negative associations to a Gemara. If someone's father sat when they were in 5th grade and screamed at them for every word of the Gemara they didn't know, then when that guy turns 23, I'm begging this guy to give learning another chance, and he's telling me he doesn't enjoy it. It's not a surprise, even if he doesn't remember those stories. You know anything about how the mind works, in a certain sense, you just swear off anything that has anything to do with that pain. So that could be one reason. It could be that he never learned how to learn clearly. And if you don't learn clearly, you cannot enjoy it. Ellie and I went through a lot of stress over this. How many times did I push you on this? And I was right. Because the more clearly you learned, the more you enjoyed it. It really goes that way. It's not so that could be another piece of it. Sometimes there are negative things going on right there in the yeshiva or in the place that a person is trying to learn. And a person has to try to deal with that and understand, is he in the right place? Is he surrounded by the right people? But there's a message here in this Mesilas Yesharim. The message is that even if maybe the dinim of scraping the guk off, a knife off, and is that guk roi for erev tavshilin or not, which I think is a unbelievable sugya that has many ramifications, as we learned earlier in the week. But even if that sugya does not speak to you, but you don't look at it that way. You look at it as an opportunity to be in love with God. Imagine someone would come over to me and tell me, what do I do? My wife is feeling like I don't I'm not interested in her. What should I do? So I'll tell him. I'm not saying that this is what I would tell him, but let's say I would tell him, go buy her a piece of jewelry and go to the store and get her a gorgeous bouquet of expensive roses and take time off from work, not easy, and try to and take her to her favorite restaurant and wine and dine her. And the guy tells me, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I said, why can't you do that? It's like, I don't like jewelry and I don't like flowers, so I can't do it. They're like, Shaita, the jewelry and the flowers, that's your way to connect with her. You don't have to like flowers. She has to like flowers. Ask him, when we learn Torah, even if I'm not connecting, I don't feel it. Scraping the knife is not speaking to me. But Chas v'shalom, I'm not calling you a shaita. But this is the flowers to God. This is your professing your love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's an enjoyment in doing that. Okay? I don't know if you like flowers, but I know that when you give your kala flowers, there's an enjoyment to it. I'd be like, wow, Ellie, you like flowers so much? No, I like my kala so much. It's not about the flowers, it's about who I'm giving it to. And that's when a person learns Torah, there's a joy that a person can have just from the excitement, how meaningful it is that I'm doing this for Hashem. It's not about yes, I have to work on figuring out how to love learning, but I'm doing this for Hashem. This is flowers on steroids. This is like the highest level of bonding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even if I don't understand how meaningful it is, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands. That's what he's saying. Involvement in learning Hashem's Torah and in understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sha'ashua. Do you know what the word sha'ashua means? It's a lashon of enjoyment, but the word sha'ashua is like when you're mishta'ashay, it's like a plaything. It's like something that you just enjoy being with. It's something that it's like when you meet your oldest friend who knows you the best and the hours melt away. That's sha'ashuim. It's like when you have when you have your hobby or something that you really enjoy and you're completely in your groove and locked in. That's sha'ashuim. It's a certain kind of enjoyment. In a rich sha'ashuim are toys for children. It's such a good thought. Okay? So learning Hashem's Torah becomes sha'ashuim, the oineg mamish and real pleasure. And Eli, let's look at this mashal. Kimi she'oyev es eishes ne'urav. Like a person who loves the wife of his youth, that wife that he shared that youthful romance with. And that those feelings that are irreplaceable, they can never be substituted or replaced or even repeated. That just like that precious ava that a person longingly remembers the beginnings, the roots of his ava. Or imagine a person has one son and he's watching this son grow up and it's his only child and the son gives him so much nachas. When you trust me, you'll see one day when you have children, you'll see that you can just watch your children and be filled with joy. It's my bracha to all of you. You'll be able to look at your children and just be able to. I sit with my wife sometimes and I'm just like, look, and we'll just sit and watch. I'll see our kids schmoozing together. They're learning together. An older kid is helping a younger kid. It's just like, you don't even want to say anything. It's just watching. Just watching them. It's an oineg. It's a sha'ashua. It's an oineg. That ava is just something that's just like, it fills you. It fills you and spills out of you. Ava chazaka, a powerful love. Asher afilu hadibur bam, even just speaking with that Eishes Neurim. Even just schmoozing with that boy that you put all of your love into, you packed all of your love into this child, is yiyalei lenachas v'tainug, is a nachas and an enjoyment. Uke'inyan hakaso, like the pasuk says, ki midei dabri bay, that while I speak of him, zachar es gerenu oid, I remember him more and more. So this is what we're aiming for, Rabbi Say. We're going to stop here, but we and try to actually